Friends. I'm Eric Wasserman. I am the founder and publisher of MEW EMW Productions. And first, I'd like to thank Gloria Mindock and Savannah Barber Press for this wonderful opportunity to be with you and talk about the future of reading and writing and indie publishing. So, why another indie press? Well, I like to believe that the majority of us, you know, come to publishing and all of this through a love for reading, although that could be nuanced. Um, I personally come from a background as both an author and as somebody who taught creative writing for a long time. And, I think the most important part is that I've never really liked seeing other authors as competitors. And that's kind of what our press is about, is that our focus for MEW Productions is about working as a team to champion the words of authors we really believe in. And that means that we're sort of honing skills as indie publishers that we bring from other places, and that's a really good thing. It's a collective journey. And the preparation for launching an indie press requires a lot of things to keep in mind. And I guess the very first thing I would say is to have a loose focus. We are an indie press that focuses on a cinematic literary experience. And that means that when you are reading our work, everything is crystal clear and flies off the page, and you can actually see it as you're having the reading experience. And that is not to say that I don't love an inner life experience in a reading experience, but this is one that sort of takes the best of both worlds and applies that visual representation so that you're really seeing those things. For those of us who have the creative impulses, it's easy to use that word branding, but that's not quite what we're doing here. What it really means is that with us having a cinematic approach means that we recognize that art's like a sponge, and that's a really great thing, that there's just as much artistic expression in cooking or gardening or home improvement or working on a car as anything else. And that's a really good thing. And that means that we're sharing a reading experience, sort of using the techniques of both those worlds. So we're really proud that our very first title, The Tide Comes Around by the amazing Juliana Kim Grant, is a novel that does just that. The narrator in this dynamic story is being presented, and we see that world that person is trying to navigate. And that's really important to us for having our first title do that. And that really matches our sensibility. We also believe that this also matches our sort of new traditionalist style that we adhere to. And that means that we are exploring current sensibilities, but we're not discarding what came before. And I think that's a nice balance to have, that we live in a complicated world where maybe our parents and grandparents didn't have to navigate certain things, but we're not rejecting sort of the literature that came before that, and that both combine together to kind of show us where we are. There are a lot of items to sort of keep in mind when launching an indie press. And I guess the first is to expect unexpected hiccups. And, they are going to happen. It is a business, but it can be a really gratifying one. But I think the most important thing is that when those hiccups sort of happen and everyone's working together, those can really lead to really wonderful compromises sometimes, even when you're in disagreement, that you're all going towards a common goal, and that everyone's kind of on the same page, and that it's a learning experience, but you keep going forward. And one of the things that I've learned in my previous adventures and experiences with, in the literary field in different avenues, is that you always want to work with talented people. That's a given, but that it's really important that you seek out to work and build a team, whether it's every day or, you have to, work with someone, on a very specific thing. Work with people that you really get along with, people that you really trust. And that can go a lot, a lot down the road more than you know. And, it's okay. You don't always have to look for the best hot shot. I want to work, of course, with the best copy editor, the best designer I can find, even the best business banking. But in the end, getting along with those people and really sort of knowing we're on the same page, that's gold. And I'd rather work with people who, they have experience, but they don't have to be hot shots in order for all of us to, hey, say, we want this to be the best book it can be and reach the widest audience it can be, and that none of us have a singular agenda here. And that's just something to kind of keep in mind. And honestly, I think that's really helped us in a lot of ways when those hiccups arise, because compromise then can be reached in a pretty agreeable way and pretty fast, actually. Um, it's not just about you know the book itself. It's about building a relationship with your author. I think about this call right now. I've known Gloria so long, and there's trust there. There's a relationship there, and for me, I'll take that any day over somebody that I'm working with, and they may be good people, but the trust in that relationship and even the friendship, those are things that are going to help you build a future for your company. So we are excited, but I would say another thing is don't be afraid to go slow. It's okay to go slow, and that's been a very good asset for us. And I kind of tapped into my own publishing experience from the other side as an author that everyone can get really jazzed and excited about wanting their own book out or now wanting to get someone else's book out. But going slow has so many benefits. It means there's attention to detail, getting it right. If there's a slip up here or there, we can have total focus and concentration on, remedying something to make it the best it can be. And patience is, for lack of a better cliche, patience is a virtue when it comes to that, and it's going to guide you, in saying, hey, sometimes I don't have all the answers, and taking from not just publishing myself, but also teaching creative writing. Uh, when you don't have an answer, the best thing is to seek out somebody with the experience where they might have the guidance to get you there. And if you trust those people you're working with, they're going to offer it wholeheartedly, and you can't beat that. It's going to be really, really great. So with that focus we have on sort of a cinematic approach to literature, it also means, yes, we're going slow and we're concentrating just this first year on one really great book. Again, we are just so proud and excited about Juliana Kim Grant's novel, The Tide Comes Around. It's such a wonderful story and such a wonderful author, so talented. But looking to the future, yeah, we have other titles that we have in mind for the next year, but also how do you branch out a bit? And for us, that is, I think our next step is that we're going to start a literary journal, the Silvati Reels. And listen, I've been to writing conferences, I've been reading journals my entire adult life. And it's really nice to have a holistic reading experience where a journal has a lot to offer and very eclectic and different. But what we're going for is for each issue to have, like I said, a focus. There will always be the cinematic literary quality to it, but kind of getting away from that idea of theme and instead moving it to, hey, we are collectively reading a journal where there are lots of different kinds of writers, and they're presenting us with something we can think about unified, and that's very exciting for us. And that goes to content as well. That you know, with our combination of new traditionalism and all that, just don't forget that I think reading is what brought all of us here. the pleasure for reading, and that's just so very important. And for instance, I am not a poet, but I read poetry for pleasure. I really do. And you know, MEW EMW Productions, our actual singular books for right now is not focused on poetry, but I'm hoping that the literary journal will include poetry that will adhere to that. And there are a lot of really great poets out there that are doing that, like A. Van Jordan and others. And so, there are ways to say I'm focused on this, but it doesn't mean I can't, also champion other things that I find passionate about just as a consumer of reading and a consumer of literature. And those all go together, really. And I guess I would say that, at least for us and our company, um, do you have something to say? And we really kind of pride ourselves that we're not trying to be the literary legitimacy police here. Honestly, I would much rather work with a first time author or maybe an author who has very few connections to the literary world or the academic literary world, who has something to say and is a wonderful writer and is ready to be part of that. And I'd like to bring those people in to be a part of that, no matter where they come from. And right now, we are getting ready, sort of look towards our future for the next year. Right now, MEW EMW Productions, it is an invitation only press. However, that will change in the future. We have already getting going a really great digital presence and distribution for print and other formats for the products. And like again, it's invitation only. However, if you go to MEWEMWProductions.com, see what we're all about, check it out, see if maybe your aesthetic meets ours, and don't be afraid to drop us a note. Very briefly, just say, "Hi, this is me, and I think I have something that you might be interested in that I'm working on." Don't be afraid. And then if we like what we read, we'll say, "Hey, send us a few pages. Let's start talking." And that's really important too, in this venture is you have to talk to people. You just do. Like I'm talking to you right now, and that's not work for me. That's the joy of it. That really is. When you're talking to people, everyone, you have a mutual interest, you know. And once again, that new traditionalist approach, we have so many opportunities right now in our digital age, but also you can't beat that word of mouth or, even that community and local connection that you may have, finding that great bookstore. Oh my God, I read this great book. You got to order it. I know they're available on Ingram. That stuff goes a long way. And even if you're not directly involved with indie publishing, I hope you'll support it because it's really important because there are a lot of marginalized voices out there and a lot of stylistic choices in writing that need an audience. And I think indie publishing is best when it finds that audience that maybe isn't tapped into, but they're looking for that experience. And so, once again, I'd really like to thank Gloria Mindock and Savannah Barber Press for inviting MEW EMW Productions to join in this. It's been a lot of fun, and I hope our team can bring good words to you and other things. And keep believing that words still matter because they do to us. Happy reading. Have a good day, friends.